Now, about a year ago, I bought my dream off-roader. I have always wanted a Cherokee XJ in dark green. Now, I found this one a 6-hour drive away, but it was super cheap because it had no MOT, it had a ton of issues, and now and again it wouldn't start. We found out the reason it wouldn't start was a starter motor problem. So after fixing the no start problem, we spent the next few weeks fixing all the things that needed doing, modifying it, and getting this off-roader ready to go off-road. Now, I was super excited to get it home, and I drove it for the first time back to my house, and it was great. The next day I went to start it up and it wouldn't start. And the video you're about to see is probably one of the most stressful things I have ever done since having my YouTube channel, trying to get this thing running. So I'm currently underneath the Jeep on my driveway. And it's not ideal because it's not starting. Now, we had an issue when we first bought the car that it didn't start from the starter motor. Kind of fixed that, even though it still isn't really fixed. Sometimes it doesn't crank, but I think there's a big grounding issue somewhere on the front. Apparently very, very common on these. But now it has a new issue over that it cranks, but I can't hear the fuel pump turning on. So I'm underneath the car. And this is what's good about big Jeeps like this. I've not got any tools here. I could bring some, but I can't be arsed. So you just climb underneath it, which is pretty easy. Now, I've got the fuel pump out. So the fuel pump is out. Luckily, you don't really need many tools. It's just like a collar here that just spins. So I've just got a hammer and that. Pulled the fuel pump out. And I've realised why my fuel gauge isn't working, because this was stuck. So we'll actually have a fuel gauge now, but the worst thing is we've got no fuel. So it's either the pump or the wiring. I have looked at the wiring and it seems okay. Even going into the car, I've pulled the seat up and there's no cracks in the wiring or anything like that. I haven't got a multimeter, so I need to bring a multimeter home and make sure I'm getting 12 volts and I'm getting ground there. But first of all, I'm actually going to take the fuel pump off and just take it to the unit and just like bench test it and see if it's actually working. So luckily, I don't even need much. There's 2 hose clamps here, 2 hose clamps, and it should just pull off. So we need to take this, we need to figure out if it's the actual pump that's gone or if it's something up with the wiring. Look at this thing outside of the unit. This is a 106 Rally E. What a cool car, similar to the Fiesta. I've been buying a lot of cars recently, and it's kind of the only thing I like to buy myself. I am a nightmare to buy for Christmas. When it's Christmas coming up, it's always good to have good Christmas ideas. Now, do you have people in your family who live far away, are really hard to buy for, or you've just forgot to get them a present? Giftsy is absolutely perfect for this. And also me, people are probably going to use this with me now. Giftsy is your go-to online store for digital gift cards, meaning you can get gift cards for almost anything and deliver them to exactly who you want to instantaneously. And on there, they include things for PlayStation Network, Xbox, Sainsbury's, Primark, and even things like Tinder for the single one in the family. You can choose gift cards for a magnitude of different places. You can select the price that you want and you can deliver them instantaneously to anybody you want to. Hey! Get on Giftsy. What do you want for Giftsy? A Tinder membership?
No!
And even better, if you use my code, which is LeeLock5, you'll get 5% cash back on every order using Zen. So I wonder if anybody does Peugeot gift cards so I can buy one of these Rally E's instantaneously from Giftsy. Probably not. So thanks Giftsy for sponsoring this video. It helps the world go round. I can get more videos out, more content for you guys, and everyone's a winner. If you want to send me a 106 Rally E on Giftsy, I'll send you my email. So I've got a little contraption here, got 2 wires into the positive and the ground, hooked it up to these, fuel pump, booster pack. I'm going to plug it in and make sure that the pump is working. If the pump is working, then there's something wrong with the wiring on the car, which is probably going to be the cheaper solution, longer but cheaper solution, because trying to get a new pump, trying to get anything for this Jeep has been a pain in the ass, to be honest. So we've got the booster pack, we're going to boost it. Right, so the pump's working. So the pump itself is working fine. So we're going to put it back in the car, and it's got to be something simple on the wiring plug. Usually things like this is just a bad ground. Now, I was that adamant that this would have been a super easy fix. I was adamant that it was probably just a ground wire on the fuel pump plug, but I actually didn't even test out if it worked. I got home and I started wiring up my damn trailer lights because I thought I was going to be towing with this thing on that weekend. Now, should have 12 volt at this pin. Nice. Fixed it. Fixed the fuel pump issue. What's been happening is this fuse is the fuel pump, and for some reason it is not getting a ground. So I've ran this green little wire straight to the ground of the relay. That's going great to the negative side of the battery. Now if we go underneath the car, you'll see we're getting 12 volts at the fuel pump. Now at this point I didn't think this was a big issue at all. You know, I've had this before on cars where one of the ground wires gets chopped further down the loom and a relay loses its ground. But on most cars, relays are always grounded. But little did I know, this was just the start of a massive, massive problem. But I've just put it straight to the battery, so those two fuses are getting constantly grounded now. And we're going to turn the key and hopefully the fuel pump's getting 12 volts. And as you can see, after checking we're getting ground at the plug, which we are, I've now put that wire in. We've got 12 volts, so now it'll start. So I've just left the fuel lines off because I just want to see if the fuel pump is working. So I'm going to turn the key and look underneath. It's definitely whining. Let's pull this off. Yeah, it's working. Maybe it is just low on fuel because there was nothing coming out then. So after topping up some fuel, we're going to get this thing started. I'm not worried. Right, we've got fuel. We've got power. The first time. Oh shit, oh no, yes! I forgot the fuel lines were attached. Okay, we've got fuel. I forgot about that. Let's put them back on. Ladies and gentlemen, after around 8 months of being sat here, she's gonna go. She's gonna go. I've got to build up the fuel pressure. So I know the fuel pump is working and I know it's delivering fuel, but it's still not starting. So you've got a little bleed off valve here and you can test if it's getting fuel. So we're getting fuel, which is weird, but we mustn't be getting spark. Let's check if we're getting spark. So I'm going to pull the coil off and I'm going to ground this plug, and let's just see if we're getting spark. Right, I think I'm going to order a coil because I've just took the main power off the coil and it's literally giving nothing. And I've even arced it against something to ground it and there's no spark there. So I don't think it's sending any power. Now it's getting 12 volts. So that coil should be sending a fuck ton of spark to the distributor to then turn around the engine and fire each plug, but it's not getting any power. So I think the coil's gone. Now my thought process here is thinking that this is an old Jeep, so it should be simple electronics. Now at this point I didn't realise how wrong I was, and ordering these little parts is a total waste of my time. So about a week or two we finally have a coil. Now I ordered one coil and it turned up and it was the wrong coil, and I had to order then the right coil, but I'm looking inside of here and they've got really weird pins, so I hope this actually fits. But as I ordered this, I vaguely had a memory that there was a spare coil in the boot. So let's go and check the boot, because I honestly think there was one. Wow. That is so annoying. There's literally, and it's new as well. It's actually new. Wow, it's still in the fucking box. Okay, we've got the new coil plugged in. let's pray this damn thing starts. I've got the jump leads on. Come on. Okay, the more I'm dealing with this, the more I'm thinking that it's something ECU related. What are the odds of it not getting spark and not getting fuel simultaneously? It doesn't make sense. It's got to be something control related. And we can force the fuel pump to work because we can just give it its own ground instead of having an ECU controlled ground. We just give it a ground, which we have done. You can't do that with ignition timing because obviously it's on the timing, it's on the engine. It needs to know where it's spinning over. A fuel pump is easy. It's got power and it's got ground. It's just going to run, but you can't do that with a coil. So I'm starting to think that it's something relating to ECU or some kind of sensor which tells the engine to run. Now, I'm going to ask ChatGPT and just see what it says because it really helped me out with my X5, and let's see what it says. Okay, ChatGPT is saying that a really common problem on these is the crankshaft position sensor. It's one of the most common causes of a no start on XJs, and it controls multiple different things including the fuel and the ignition. Now I think that has to be the culprit. It's just weird that it's not showing an engine management light. So I've just done a little bit of research on them, and they're a little bit of a pain to get to, and I haven't got my tools here and I haven't got my multimeter. But we can do a test on the CPS whilst it's still in the car and check if the resistance is good, but I'm going to have to wait again because I don't have a multimeter here. But when I did a resistance check on the crankshaft position sensor, everything was fine. Now, I'm not going to lie, I gave up for a bit. I was sick of it, and a few months later, I decided that I can't give up on this. We've got to get it done. Something is stopping this ECU from controlling the engine. It thinks that the ECU isn't there at all. We took all the dash apart, and I'm getting no engine management light when I'm turning the key on, which means that the ECU is not communicating to the dash, I don't think. Now, it's been about 6 months since I've touched this damn thing because it's so hard to work in it here when I've got no tools. So I've brought a load of tools home. It's full of spider webs in here. I'm going to try, this is going to be my last attempt to get it running. I think it's one of two things. So let me tell you what I think those are. This car is revolting. It's been sat here for so long. It's basically one big spider web. So let's pull the bonnet and let's try one last attempt. You can see the absolute mess in here where I've had all the dash apart, all the wiring underneath the dash apart. Everything's just... And it's a shame because I really do like this car, but it's turning into one of my most regretful purchases ever. I wish I just got a fucking Land Rover. But I can't even sell it because it's not fucking running. So we've got to get it running. So I've gone over the pinouts on the ECU. And there's a few key things on the ECU which would stop it from communicating and turning on. I don't even know where the bloody... How do I hold this bonnet up? There's a few things on the ECU, a few grounds and a few powers. We're just going to check them over because I personally don't think that the ECU is turning on. So we've got all the wiring down here for the ECU. We've got the pinout. See, I've already jumped into this to try and fix it. Let's see what the problem is. Now, there's just wiring everywhere on this car. This car has been completely bodged. There's just wires going everywhere, and it could be anything. But I have started taking off all these grounds because we're going to clean up all the grounds. It could be something simple like that. But we're going to go straight to the ECU, and we're going to start checking for the important things because that will probably be a better start. It will give us an idea if it's an ECU problem or it could just be a sensor. Considering I'm getting no engine management light, I think it's something to do with the ECU. The ECU sits down here in this little plastic box, and this is the wiring for the ECU itself. Now, it potentially could be that the ECU is totally knackered. So we need to check a few grounds, a few power grounds, and a few power 5 volts, 12 volts, and just make sure it's getting all the electrical connections it needs. If it is, then it's probably an ECU issue itself, which is going to be a big problem because you can't get them over here in the UK. So the first thing we're going to do is just clean up the battery ground. So right now we've got tons of wires coming everywhere. We've got an isolator switch over here going inside the car. We've got grounds going to the winch. We're just going to tidy it all up and just put on the grounds that we need for the time being. So we've got one ground strap here, one's going to the starter, and we're going to tidy up. We're going to get the wire wheel. We're going to tidy up this body ground here, and we've got one ground for the body and one ground to the engine on the starter, and then we're going to leave it as that. So instead of having loads of grounds going everywhere, we're just going to put one ground strap to the engine and one ground strap to the body, and we're going to clean everything up with a wire wheel so it's getting a good connection. Now, because it's been left so long, the battery is completely flat, so we're going to have to hook it up to the tow rig to do all of our testing. Now, this is an ECU pinout, and this is exactly what wire does on every pin on the ECU. Now, you can see the most important ones here. We've got 3 power grounds, and that's going to ground the whole ECU. We've got one battery feed, which is 12 volt constant, one ignition feed, which is 12 volt on the key, and basically, if everything of those is working, the ECU should be powering up and we should be getting a check engine light, but we're not getting a check engine light. So something is not going on. It's not getting power, or it's not getting ground, or the ECU is internally dead. So we're going to check all of those wires. This is really questioning my electrical power, okay? So I'm going to try and understand what's going on, and what we're looking for. So this is the ECU. And this controls, it's called Engine Control Unit, or PCM, which is Power Control Module. And this basically controls the engine, okay? Now, for it to start the engine, it needs a lot of things. Now, in most cars, it's a few wires. On this one, it's a hell of a lot. So the first thing we're going to need is a 12 volt constant, which means that this needs to be constantly powered for it to store things like codes and memory and stuff. So that's going to be going straight to the battery. Now, it also needs a 12 volt ignition, which means when you turn the key on, dunk, this powers up, okay? Now, it also needs another power, and this is the, oh my God, we're going to run out of space. This is the automatic shutdown relay 12 volt, and we'll get back to that one. Now, it also needs, this thing is a 5 volt reference, and we're going to get onto that one in a minute because that's very confusing. Now, it also needs a 5 volt sensor ground, okay, and that's very confusing, so we'll get to that one in a minute as well. And it also needs 1, 2, 3 separate grounds, and they're going to be powered to ground constantly. That is what this ECU needs. Now, oh my God, this is so confusing. So these 5 volt sensor grounds, okay, it's going to send this power out, and first of all, it's going to come to the TPS sensor, and then it's going to go to the crankshaft position sensor, and then it's going to go to the cam position sensor, and then it's going to go to the O2 sensor, and blah 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 through every single sensor. If one of these cuts out, boom, the ECU will totally cut out. That's another annoying thing. Now, the 5 volt sensor ground, this one here, also goes to the TPS, also goes to the CPS, also goes to the cam position sensor, all goes to the O2. If that one cuts out, boom, we've got no ECU. You're understanding why it's getting confusing. These are easy. These are just grounds, okay? Now, the more annoying thing, we're not done there. Wait till it gets even more confusing. 12 volt battery, easy to do. You know, you measure that. We've got 12 volt, goes straight to the battery, good. 12 volt ignition, easy to measure. ASD relay. So this ASD relay power comes over here, and there's 2 relays, okay? One's called the ASD relay and one's called the fuel pump relay. ECU needs 12 volt from this. When these relays turn on, it sends 12 volts to the ECU, allowing it to boot up. But what controls these relays, may I add? You fucking guessed it, another line on the ECU controls the ground to these relays. Oh my goodness, this is an absolute outrage of a fucking electrical system, right? So what the ECU is going to read, let's go for the ECU. Have we got 12 volt? Yes. Have we got 12 volt on the key? Yes. Have we got a 5 volt sensor going through every single sensor? Yes. Have we got a ground coming back from every single sensor? Yes. Have we got this ground? Yes. Have we got the other ground? Yes. Have we got the other ground? Yes. And then the ECU will decide to send a ground to these relays. These relays then turn on, and then the relays decide to send another 12 volt ground back to the ECU, doing the final thing it needs to boot, which is the ASD 12 volt. Oh my God, what a shit show. Okay, so the main power grounds to the ECU are getting a ground. Two main powers are going to be this number 3 here, and you'll see it's got 12 volts. So 12 volts in there, that means that's constant, which is good. And we've got a number 9 over here, which is this one, which should get 12 volts when we turn on the key. Let me just check. Number 9, ignition accessory feed. Right, let's turn the key and see what that says. Are we seeing 12 volts, guys? Are we seeing 12 volts? Yes. Oh, no. Now, this seems like a good idea, but the more wires are correct, the higher chance of the ECU itself being blown, and that's not ideal. The next thing we can try is there's one ground wire which links all of the sensors. So there's a 5 volt wire which links all the sensors, and a ground wire which links all the sensors. Now, I've just got into the ground wire, and the ground wire for the ECU shouldn't be, apparently, it shouldn't be grounding out to the battery. It's apparently that's just the ECU to read the ground, but that line is getting grounded to the chassis. So I'm going to pull back all these wires. It's these blue ones here, blue black ones, and it goes through every sensor. So that goes down to the gearbox. This one comes over to the distributor, and there's a load down here which goes to the TPS sensors as well. So we're going to cut back all that wiring and see if any of those are getting ground to the chassis. Now, these wires shouldn't be getting grounded to the chassis. They should just be grounded to the ECU so it can read out the sensors. If that is getting grounded to the chassis, it might be sending false information to the ECU. Completely strip the loom, and every one of these blue and red ones is the sensor ground to the ECU. Now, I figured out that they're all fine. They're getting grounded to the ECU, but when I pull the ECU off, it's not getting chassis ground. So considering they're not getting grounded to the chassis with the ECU plug off, that's good news. It means there's no short in that wires. But what is strange is that when I plug it in to the ECU, it's getting shorted to ground. More and more things are pointing towards an ECU problem. In other words, when we have the ECU plugged in, our electrical systems are crossing over all over the place. Powers are getting grounds, grounds are getting power, and it's making no sense whatsoever. And this is only really when we have the ECU plugged in. I'm honestly stumped, guys. The ECU is getting everything it needs, and it's giving what it needs. We're getting a 12 volt power source on the battery, so the fuses are good. We're getting an ignition 12 volt, which is good. The fuses are good. All the grounds are getting ground. It's sending out 5 volts, and I'm getting 5 volts at the TPS sensor, and all the sensor grounds are all working and getting grounded as well. Now, this is really confusing because if the ECU was totally dead, it wouldn't be sending that 5 volt reference to the sensors. It's almost like half of it's alive, but half of it's dead. And it's just really, really getting on my nerves now because I'm running out of things to try. Now, I started messing around with a bunch of fuses and a bunch of relays just to see if any fuse was blown and it was causing the ECU not to boot up. Now, in the middle of that process, I got the check engine light on. My check engine light is on. That was not on earlier. I'm going to go for it. No, correct. That was definitely not on earlier. Definitely not on. Okay, it didn't start, but then I realised I was missing a fuse. This big 30 amp. When I plug that 30 amp fuse in, my check engine light doesn't come on. My check engine light doesn't come on when that fuse is in, which means something on that fuse is causing some kind of short in the circuit and it's not letting the ECU boot. That's why we're not seeing the check engine light. Annoyingly, this fuse powers fucking everything. So now, one by one, we're going to remove everything that circuit powers. So firstly, we're going to remove the ignition coil, and we're going to come and turn the key. Now, we're going to keep doing this until we find the one thing. Right, so it's not that. The one thing that's shorting the circuit out. Now, annoyingly, that big fuse controls a bunch of different wires underneath the fuse board, but I found the one wire which is causing our problem. The CEL is turning on, so I've chopped this one wire which goes off around here, and with everything plugged in, the 30 amp fuse plugged in, the relays plugged in, the ignition plugged in, just with this one wire cut, when we turn the key, got a check engine light. So that one wire is our problem. This one here, we now just need to follow it and see where it goes, and hopefully it takes us to a short. So we followed this wire and it goes to two other circuits. Now, instead of me following all the wires all the way down, I've just cut them. So when they're both touched together, ECU doesn't boot up. Now, I followed this wire, and this wire is a positive for the ECU. It goes straight to the ECU, which means when we give the ECU full power, it cuts out. But when we're only giving it half power, it boots up. I think something is shorting inside the ECU, and when we're giving it full power, it's jumping to a ground and it's killing all the ECU inside. I think we might actually have this starting this morning, right? I have never been in this much depth with wiring in my entire life. This is pretty scary shit, but I've also learned a lot as well. I think I've got the fix. And if this doesn't work, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do. Let's get what I think is going to fix it. In this box, I have a spare ECU. I put in the Jeep pages, and a nice guy called Ollie messaged me. He said, I've got a spare ECU. I'll send it to you. Just cover the postage. If it doesn't work, send it back. If it does work, buy it off me for cheap. What a legend. So we've got a spare ECU. I'm pretty adamant that this is the problem, and we're going to go for the first start, and it better fucking start. Quickest recap ever. These two relays control the car, basically. These two relays aren't turning on, nothing's going to run. Now, these two relays aren't getting grounded from this wire here, and they should be getting grounded from the ECU. But because the ECU isn't booting up, it cannot ground the ASD relay, therefore it's not letting the engine start. It has to be the ECU. The ECUs are just in the engine bay, so Ollie sent me an ECU and an extra plug as well. We don't need that, he's chopped that off. We don't need that extra plug, just the ECU. Now, luckily they're in the engine bay, which is good for accessible reasons, but not good if you're taking them off roads. If that gets wet, you can see the problem. And this might be why we're having problems. This might have got wet, and it might what the hell is that noise? Sounds like a fucking drone or some fucking one of the pixies from Harry Potter. Right, so we're gonna just put this ECU in front of it, screw her in, and we'll know straight away. If we turn the key on, we've got a check engine light, it's gonna work. If we turn the key on, and we've not got a check engine light, it's not going to work. Pretty simple. I just wanted to see that check engine light. I've never been so happy to see a check engine light in my entire life. Now, I've done a lot of wiring, so I'm just going to make sure everything that I've messed is actually still plugged in. I'm just going to go over all the wiring because I have messed around with stuff and we've got empty wires and cut wires everywhere. So I'm going to make sure everything is actually, a part of the system. Oh my God. The thing is, I know if it's going to work before I even crank. Oh my God. The check engine light's there, guys. Guys, the check engine light's there. It's going to fucking start. It's going to fucking start. We're going to go for it. No, please. The check engine light's there. Why is it not running? Right. let's just do, like, the check engine light's working. Let's go back to the basics. So the wire that grounds the two important relays is still not getting grounded with the key. But I found out why. See this wire here? That's the wire that grounds the relay, but I've chopped it from doing some testing last time and I forgot to put it back together. Let's put that back together, put that back in that relay. Oh my God, please, 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 please. Right, that'll do for now. Let's plug it back into that relay and we're gonna have to test that wire for ground when the key's on. If we're getting ground when the key's on, that is good. The ECU is doing everything it needs to do. So we're gonna come and chop it back into this wire here, which is the ground for the ASD relay and the fuel pump relay. So now we've totally, I've not done any bodging, manual, grounded, everything is how it was from standard. When I turn this key, I should hear the fuel pump. Yes, yes. Let me make sure the check engine light's on. Okay, that's the problem we had before is now been fixed. When we turn the key, the relays are turning on. I can hear the fuel pump. Now it should start. Honestly, I don't know why it wouldn't start before, but now that ECU's getting ground, it's probably going to be happy. Oh my God, it tried. Just please start. No. Oh my God, this is so frustrating. Oh my God, this is the most frustrating thing I've ever done in my entire life. Why is this thing not fucking running? Oh my God, that is so annoying. Oh my God, let me just make sure that this wire is pulsing ground. Ow, fuck me, that's sharp. Right, let's put that on the positive and let's just make sure that that wire is grounding. Yeah. Okay, so we need to start checking everything now. The ECU is working, it's booting, and it's allowing the fuel pump to start. It's turning on the relays to start the engine. So we need to make sure that we're getting spark. If we're getting spark, that means all the sensors are correct. And after grounding out the coil lead, we're getting spark. We're getting spark from the coil lead and we're getting spark from the HT leads to the spark plugs, which means the crankshaft position sensor is working. The ECU is trying to start the engine. We're getting spark and we're getting fuel. Now, just because we're getting fuel at the fuel rail doesn't necessarily mean that the injectors are working. So we're going to check the wiring. Now, not only are we getting 12 volts, but we're also getting a pulsing ground, which means the ECU is sending signals to open the injectors. But we're still not getting the engine starting. Right, now it's getting really, really weird. With the new ECU in, we're getting spark, right? We're getting fuel. The fuel pump's working. The injectors are getting 12 volt and pulsing ground. The coil is getting 12 volts and pulsing ground, and we're getting spark at the coil, and we're also getting spark at the spark plugs. So why the hell is this thing not fucking running? The only thing that makes sense now is if it's something distributor related or timing related, something it's not matching up, because we're getting spark and we're getting fuel. It should be running. The only reason it wouldn't run if we're getting spark and getting fuel is if we're getting spark and getting fuel at the wrong time, which would make sense. So maybe the distributor is knocked out of timing or something like that. I can't believe how difficult this is. This is meant to be a fun off-roader. And I'm sat here turning myself into a fucking electrical engineering degree on my fucking driveway. I'll tell you what I need. I need some brake cleaner to just put it in the intake and just see if it tries starting, because if it starts, it's not a timing problem then. I just need to get it running, but I've got nothing here. I don't know what I could bodge either, really. I don't think bleach will work. Kitchen cleaner, don't think so. Right, guys, I genuinely have to go. And I need to get this video uploaded because sponsorship things, you know, we all got to get paid, boys. I've been trying so fucking hard to get this running in this video. I've been out here for days and nights, about 5 days in a row now, trying to get this started. And we're at a good point. The ECU is working, it's sending spark and it's sending fuel. It's really annoying, so I really wanted to get you started in this video. But I've got to go, and it's about to start fucking pissing it down as well. Sod's law, that, innit? Whenever you work outside, it starts fucking pissing it down. And this is really, really, really killing me now, because it was so close, but it's still so far away, you know? I don't understand why it's not starting. I'm just looking at the engine to see if I've missed anything, and I don't understand. What I can do is I can put my ear up to them. I mean, it could be the case that this is the thing, all the injectors can't die at one time. I need to listen to the injectors and see if I can hear them pulsing. Because if 3 are down, maybe even 2 are down, probably won't run. But it's just too convenient, isn't it, that the ECU's gone and something else isn't working. It's too convenient. It's too convenient. But the ECU is working now. Oh, we're so close, guys. We're so close. In the next video, we're going to have this running and we're going to take it off-roading as a celebration in the next video. So please stick around and pray for me. Pray for me.